Good evening. Today is Sunday, July 5th, 2026. You're listening to Cyber FM. I'm your host, Arias Thomas, and tonight we're going to be talking about threat intelligence, specifically how analysts take raw data and turn them into real-life cyber defense. Let's begin.
Listening to Cyber FM, hosted by Arias Thomas.
You're locked into Cyber FM, the only station on your dial where the bandwidth meets the breakdown. I'm your host, Arias Thomas, and it is Thursday, July 2nd, 2026. And folks, today's show is a big one. Today, we are diving deep into a topic that's shaping how every company, every hospital, every airport, and honestly, every one of you stay safe online. Threat intelligence. We're talking about how the good guys actually figure out what the bad guys are doing before it becomes tomorrow's headline. Stick around because by the end of this show, you're going to understand exactly how the intelligence world separates the noise from the real threats. Let's begin. So let's start at the top. You hear the term threat intelligence thrown around a lot these days, but what does it actually mean? Think of it this way. There's security intelligence, which is basically a big picture process. Data gets generated, collected, processed, analyzed, and then shared to give organizations insight into how healthy or how exposed their systems really are. Then, nested inside that, you've got something more specific, cyber threat intelligence. This is the investigative side, collecting and analyzing information about emerging threats and threat actors so organizations understand the external landscape they're up against. Now here's a detail I love. Cyber threat intelligence comes in two flavors: narrative reports, which read like a story explaining an attack or a threat actor's behavior, and data feeds, which are the raw machine-readable streams of indicators. And listeners, here's the key takeaway the pros want you to remember. You don't pick one or the other, you use both. The narrative gives you context, and the data feed gives you speed. Together, that's a full intelligence picture. And who's producing all of this? Major players like McAfee, FireEye, and Red Canary, among plenty of others. They're out there right now publishing threat intelligence reports that security teams around the world rely on daily.
Segment number 2, the intelligence cycle.
Now let's talk process, because intelligence doesn't just appear out of thin air. It moves through what's called the intelligence cycle, and honestly, it's one of the more elegant systems in the security world. 5 stages, all feeding into each other.
Stage 1, requirements, planning, and direction.
Requirements, planning, and direction. This is where the mission gets defined. What exactly do you want to measure? What are we trying to collect? Without this step, you're just collecting noise.
Stage 2, collection and processing.
Stage 2, collection and process. Software tools go out and gather Stage 2, collection and process. Software tools go out and gather raw data, and then that data gets converted into a standard format so analysts can actually make sense of it.
Stage 3, analysis.
Analysis. This is where the real thinking happens, sometimes with the help of automation, AI, and machine learning, sorting everything into 3 buckets: known good, known bad, and not sure. That third bucket, by the way, is where a lot of the real detective work lives.
Stage 4, dissemination.
The findings get published out to the people who need to act on them, broken into strategic, operational, and tactical insights depending on who's consuming it. We're talking executives, managers, or the analyst on the front line.
And stage 5, feedback.
The cycle loops back around, lessons learned, measuring what actually worked, and adjusting for the evolving threat landscape. And then right back to stage 1. It never really stops, to be honest.
Segment number 3, how do we trust the source?
Here's something a lot of people don't think about. Not all intelligence is created equal. Before anyone acts on a piece of threat data, it has to be evaluated. And there are 4 factors analysts use to judge a source. 1, timeliness. Is this information current or is it stale? Number 2, relevancy. Does it actually match what we're trying to solve here? 3, accuracy. Does it hold up and produce effective results? And number 4, confidence level. How reliable is this really? And can we quantify that? Now, one really interesting example, the MISP project, a well-known open source platform, actually codifies something called the Admiralty Scale for grading data. It's a two-part rating system. One scale, letters A through F, rates the reliability of the source itself, ranging from A, completely reliable with the history of accuracy, all the way down to F, cannot be judged. The second scale, numbers 1 through 6, rates the reliability of the actual information content, from confirmed by independent sources down to cannot be judged. Put those two together and you get a shorthand, like B2, that tells an analyst in 2 characters exactly how much weight to put on a piece of intel.
Segment number 4, where does all this intelligence come from?
So where do organizations actually get this data? Well, there are 3 general buckets of sources. First, proprietary intelligence. This is commercial, subscription-based threat intelligence widely offered by vendors as a paid service. Second, closed source. Data comes from a provider's own researchers, things like honeypots they operate themselves, plus anonymized data mined from their own customer base. And third, the one most of our listeners have probably heard of, open source. This is data available without subscription, things like threat feeds, reputation lists, and malware signature databases. And we're talking about names like R.S.S.H, the UK's NCSC, AT&T's Open Threat Exchange, MISP Virus Total Spam House, and the SANS Internet Storm Center's Suspicious Domains List. And tucked inside open source is a term you've probably heard before, even outside the security world, and that's OSINT, which is open source intelligence. That's simply the method of gathering information about a person or organization through public records, websites, and social media. It sounds simple, but OSINT is one of the most powerful tools in the threat analyst's kit.
Segment number 5, strength in numbers, ISACs.
Last major topic for today, and it's a good one, and we're going to be talking about information sharing and analysis centers, or ISACs. These are non-for-profit groups built for one purpose, and that's sharing sector-specific threat intelligence and security best practices among their members. Across the pond, the UK has a similar setup called the Cybersecurity Information Sharing Partnership, or the CISP, or the CISP. And ISACs exist across a huge range of industries. There's the Critical Infrastructure ISAC, covering physical or virtual systems so vital that their disruption would threaten national security, economic stability, or public health. That includes major focuses on areas like industrial control systems, SCADA, and embedded devices. There's a government ISAC supporting non-federal governments like state, local, tribal, and territorial. A healthcare ISAC protecting providers who are constantly targeted by criminals looking to exploit patient data or interfere with medical devices for ransom. A financial ISAC, which is working to prevent fraud and extortion against both institutions and everyday consumers. And aviation ISAC, working to prevent fraud, terrorism, service disruptions, and unsafe interference with air traffic systems. The idea behind all of them is simple. No single organization can fight this alone. Sharing intelligence across an entire sector makes everyone stronger.
Closing segment, how it all connects.
So here's how this all ties together for you, the listener. That intelligence cycle we talked about earlier doesn't just live in a vacuum. It actively feeds into 4 critical security functions. Risk management, which identifies and prioritizes threats to reduce their impact. Incident response, the organized playbook for handling a breach after it happens. Vulnerability management, the ongoing work of finding and fixing software weaknesses. And detection and monitoring, constantly watching for anomalies before they become disasters. Today's show is brought to you by the R.S.S.H delivery company, New York's exclusive delivery option. Whether it's a package, a parcel, or a priority envelope, the R.S.S.H gets it to your door faster than a 0-day gets patched. The R.S.S.H delivery company, when it eventually just isn't good enough. And that wraps up today's edition of Cyber FM. Let's recap the ground we've covered. We broke down the difference between security intelligence and cyber threat intelligence, walked through all 5 stages of the intelligence cycle, dug into how analysts grade the reliability of a source using scales like the Admiralty Scale, explored the 3 types of intelligence sources, proprietary, closed source, and open source, and closed things out with a look at information sharing and analysis centers, protecting everything from hospitals to airports. Once again, today's show is brought to you by the R.S.S.H delivery company, reliable and rated A for accuracy, just like the intel you should be trusting. I'm Arias Thomas, this has been Cyber FM, and I'll catch you on the next frequency. Stay secure.